Did that next one down there?
Yeah. This blue car, but yeah, it's the next house.
A 16-year-old kid is standing on a sidewalk on his lunch break, waiting for a ride to McDonald's, with his AirPods in. 10 seconds later, there are rifles pointed at his chest. Not a toy gun, not a taser, actual rifles, held by a tactical team, on a quiet residential street in the middle of the day. He is handcuffed, searched, and forced to the ground in front of his own classmates. He did nothing. He committed no crime. He was not a suspect in anything. And here is the part that should make you sit up. After it happened, the police department did not apologize and move on. They spent months fighting to keep this video hidden from the public. You are about to see the footage they did not want you to see, and I am going to show you exactly where the law was crossed. Because once you understand what a police officer is actually allowed to do when they think you look like someone, you will never see one of these stops the same way again. My name is Ben. I break down real police encounters so you know your rights before you ever need them. And this one is a masterclass in how fast a normal afternoon can turn into a gun pointed at your kid. Let me set the scene for you. This is South Portland, Maine, May 13th of last year. Officers had real warrants that day. They were looking for a 19-year-old named Miles Hibbard, a burglary suspect. The department later said Hibbard was, quote, known to associate with individuals who carry and use firearms. So the tactical posture, on its own, is not the crazy part. If you have a legitimate warrant for a genuinely dangerous suspect, showing up prepared is not illegal. I want to be fair about that up front, because I am not one of these channels that pretends every cop is a cartoon villain. The problem is not that they came ready. The problem is who they pointed those rifles at and why. Watch what happens when they roll up on the street.
We got two in the car. I'm gonna go on this side so I can get a better angle. You can run with him if you want.
Yeah. Did that next one down there?
Yeah. This blue car, but yeah, it's the next house.
Stop. You gotta go up one more, brother. One more house.
Here is the first thing I need you to notice. The teenager they surrounded is not running. He is not reaching for anything. He is standing on a public sidewalk near his high school, on his lunch break, exactly where a student is supposed to be. And the entire justification, the whole legal foundation for everything you are about to watch, comes down to 4 words. He matched the description. Officers had a photo of Hibbard from his license. They saw a young man who looked similar, and they moved. So let me teach you what those 4 words actually mean in a courtroom, because this is where most people get it wrong. Under the 4th Amendment, a police officer cannot detain you just because they feel like it. The moment guns come out and you are ordered to the ground, that is a seizure, legally speaking. And to justify it, an officer needs what is called reasonable suspicion. Now, here is the key. Reasonable suspicion has to be particularized. That is the actual legal word. It cannot be a vague hunch, and it cannot be, this person is the same age and race and general shape as somebody we are looking for. Courts have thrown out stops for exactly that. A description that would fit half the young men in a neighborhood is not reasonable suspicion. It is a coin flip, and you are not allowed to point a rifle at a child on a coin flip. Keep that standard in your head, particularized, and watch how the kid responds when they close in.
I can't fucking see into that car at all.
Yeah.
Dude, hold on, we're gonna explain everything.
I don't love this.
Got anything on you? No, sir, just my AirPods. Okay. Alright. That blue car?
Yeah.
Is that yours?
No.
You live here?
No, I live next to. Yeah. What's that? I go to school here.
The theory?
Yeah.
You know whose car that is?
Yeah.
Whose car is it?
My friend.
Who?
My friend. Yeah.
Ronnie.
Yeah.
Listen to him. They ask if he has anything on him. His answer is, no, sir, just my AirPods. Just my AirPods. That is the most dangerous thing in this teenager's possession. He is polite. He is compliant. He answers every question, and he even tells them, "I go to school here." Think about what that means. He is not just innocent. He is visibly, audibly cooperating, and he is giving them information that instantly starts to fall apart their theory. And I want you to hold on to that cooperation, because it matters enormously for the second legal issue in this case, which is force.
Alex.
To
what are
our
you
right.
doing over there?
Who's watching?
No. Like them.
Oh,
Our guys.
listen. What's the plan?
We're gonna try to sit. We're gonna take 3 of you, 1, 2, and I'll take one of my guys. We're gonna go up to the house. At least try to make contact with the house. These guys can kind of handle the car for a second, just make sure he's on it. We'll bypass him and let's go up to the door. That's the party house.
That one over there?
Yeah.
Okay.
With the white car in front of it.
Okay.
Okay, I'll leave you with Verb and Terrio, and I'll take 2 out of Portland and Gray up to the house.
There is a difference between detaining someone and terrorizing them. Even when a stop is legal, the amount of force has to be reasonable for the situation in front of you. Pointing a rifle at a person is near the very top of the force scale. Courts treat guns drawn as a serious intrusion, something you escalate to when there is an immediate threat, a weapon, active resistance, a real danger in the moment. So ask yourself what the threat was here. A teenager with earbuds, standing still, saying yes sir and no sir. There is no weapon, there is no lunge, there is no flight. And under the case law, when the danger that justified pulling a gun disappears, the gun is supposed to come down. Now watch how long it takes them to figure out they have the wrong person, and watch how many other people get swept up in the meantime, because it is not just him.
You want me to go with you?
Yeah, just for until we figure it out, we'll bypass that.
What are we doing?
You guys got a design?
What do we do though? Do we do anything? I got my license. Do we do anything though?
You guys miles? Kick your butt.
Miles? That's not miles. That's not miles.
Yeah, we know. We're talking to them too.
I'm miles? No, it's not miles. We all go do all
Okay.
Okay.
You get your ID after that?
My license.
There are other kids in a nearby car, and they get pulled into this too. Detained, questioned, controlled. And I need you to understand the legal problem with that, because it is even cleaner than the first one. Whatever thin theory they had about the teenager looking like Hibbard, they had nothing on the other people in that vehicle. Zero. You cannot detain someone just for being physically near a person you are interested in. Presence is not suspicion. The Supreme Court has said that for decades. So every second those other kids are held is a separate potential violation stacking on top of the first one. This is how one bad identification becomes 5 or 6 constitutional problems in the span of a couple of minutes. And here is the timeline that really tells the story. According to the department's own account, it took officers about 2 minutes to determine that this teenager was not Miles Hibbard. 2 minutes. The whole encounter was over in roughly 5. Now some people will hear that and think, well, only 5 minutes. No harm done. I could not disagree more, and here is why. The fact that they cleared him in 2 minutes is not a defense, it is the indictment. It means the information that proved his innocence was available almost instantly. His age, his answers, the fact that he goes to the school right there, the fact that he had nothing on him but earbuds. If it only took 2 minutes to realize the truth, then the rifles never should have come up in the first place, because the actual facts on that sidewalk never supported it. Quick to realize the mistake just means the mistake was obvious. So they let him go. No weapon found. No crime. A 16-year-old walks back to school, having had guns pointed at him over his lunch break.
I'm gonna go on this side. Hang it up around. car, but yeah, it's the next house.
And this is the moment where a decent department says, "We got this badly wrong. Here is the footage. Here is our apology. Here is what we are changing." That is not what happened. And this is the turn in the story that took it from a bad stop to something a lot of people found genuinely disturbing. The family wanted the body camera video. The public wanted it, and the police said no. Both departments initially refused to release the footage, pointing to exemptions in Maine's public records law. Think about that for a second. The most powerful evidence of what actually happened to this child, the footage from the officer's own cameras, and the response was to keep it locked away. It took months. It took a local news investigative team pushing. It took formal public records requests. It took sustained public pressure before South Portland finally reversed course and released what you are watching right now.
We gotta go up one more, brother. One more house. I can't fucking see into that car at all.
Oh, dang it, bro. What did I do? Hold on, we're gonna explain everything.
I don't love this.
Got anything on you?
No, sir. Just my AirPods.
Okay. Alright. That blue car? Yeah. Is that yours?
No.
You live here?
No, I live. I go to school here. Yeah.
You know whose car that is?
Yeah.
Transparency was not the instinct. Transparency was the thing they gave up only after a fight. And I want to steelman the department here, because I always do. Their chief, Dan Ahern, defended the officers, saying they were appropriately and lawfully engaging someone who matched the description of a suspect known to associate with people who carry firearms. That is their honest position. In their view, the tactics matched the threat profile of the guy they were hunting. Okay, but notice what that defense quietly admits. It admits the entire operation was built on top of a resemblance. On matched the description, which brings us right back to that word from earlier, particularized. A threat profile that belongs to Miles Hibbard does not transfer onto a random 16-year-old just because a photo looked similar. You do not inherit someone else's dangerousness because you have the same haircut. And the law does not let an officer borrow suspicion from one person and aim it at another. Which is exactly why this is now in federal court. The Institute for Justice, one of the most serious constitutional litigation firms in the country, has taken this family's case and filed a federal civil rights lawsuit. And the reason a firm like that gets involved matters. They are not chasing a quick payout. They fight the hard structural battles, and the hardest one in every case like this is a doctrine called qualified immunity. Qualified immunity is the legal shield that often protects officers from being personally sued even when they violate your rights, unless a court has already ruled on an almost identical situation before. It is the single biggest reason these cases die. So when the Institute for Justice steps in, they are not just seeking a check for one family. They are trying to establish the principle that pointing rifles at a compliant, innocent child, and then hiding the tape, is a line the government is not allowed to cross. If they win, it protects your kid, and mine, from the next department that decides a resemblance is good enough.
I can't fucking see into that car at all.
What did I do? Hold on, we're gonna explain everything.
I don't love this.
Got anything on you?
No, sir. Just my AirPods.
Okay. Alright. That blue car?
Yeah.
Is that yours?
No.
You live here?
No, I live next to. Yeah.
What's that?
I go to school here.
Here?
Yeah.
You know whose car that is?
Yeah.
Whose car is it?
My friend.
Who?
My friend. Yeah.
Johnny.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
So let me leave you with the thing that actually keeps me up about this one. Every protection I just walked you through, particularized suspicion, reasonable force, the right to be free from a gun in your face when you have done nothing, all of it only means something if people know it and demand it. The teenager on that sidewalk did everything right. He was calm, he was respectful, he answered honestly, and it did not stop the rifles from coming up, because the failure was not his, it was theirs. The only reason we are even talking about it is that the video eventually got out, and the only reason it got out is that people refused to let it stay buried. That is the whole reason this channel exists, so that you are not learning your rights for the first time while a light is shining in your window. If this breakdown taught you something, subscribe, because I do one of these every single day, and the next one might be the one you need. And if you want to go deeper, my members get the extended case files and the full Know Your Rights playbook. The link is in the description. Now tell me in the comments, if that had been your kid on that sidewalk and the department tried to bury the footage, what would you have done?